Hello and welcome to the Albion Obsessed podcast. We come to you on the back of our first victory against Liverpool at home in 62 years. A performance that I believe is perhaps one of the best performances, if not the best performance of the Amex era. But we'll get onto that discussion point a little bit later. Let's first see who we've got on the show today. We welcome Joe. Joe, my friend, how are you doing? Have you come down after the result yesterday?
Nope, I didn't get much sleep last night either because I was so buzzing. Watched the highlights probably 8 or 10 times. So yeah, feeling good, mate. Happy to be here and good to see you all.
Fantastic, fantastic. Aaron, my friend, how are you keeping?
Yes, good afternoon, everybody. Very well, thank you. How about yourself, Thomas? Are you well?
Yeah, not too bad, buddy. As Joe says, it's been one hell of a weekend. We just need maybe a few results to go our way this afternoon to but I don't want to get onto the G pots and whatnot. But I'd actually quite like a Palace win today. That's the first and only time I'm ever going to say that, and it's live.
Right, sack him.
Recorded.
Sack him.
Don't care at all. Chloe, how are you keeping? I mean, if you could just ignore that previous comment, that'd be great.
Yeah, I'm a bit disgusted by what you just said, but other than that, I'm pretty good.
Good, I'm glad to hear it. But remember, guys, I don't care about Palace to such an extent that I'd rather them beat Graham because I'm still bitter, just like the coffee I'm drinking. Dan, my friend, how are you keeping? That's some very hyper Turk training gear I see that you're wearing, as is Chloe, I believe, as well. Wow, hyper Turk for days.
The hyper Turk twins at the bottom here. Yeah, we're all good. Yeah, if there's a way that both of those teams could lose, I'd love to know it, but that'd be great. But yeah, all good.
That would be the ideal scenario. But as I say, for the first and only time in history, I genuinely hope that lot up the road do us a favour. And I don't care what anyone else says. We've got a lot to unpack today. A lot to unpack after what, as I say, was, I think, perhaps the best performance of the Amex era. Let's start, Joe, with just what I like to start talking about, and that was the starting 11, because I can't be the only one who, when I saw that starting 11, went, no right back, no recognised right back. Yes, Pascal has played there before, but even though Liverpool are and were out of sorts, they still pose a threat going forward. What did you make of De Zerbi omitting a recognised right back from the starting 11?
I think it was probably a case of you need Lallana in the team, you need Pascal Gross in the team. They both play a similar role on the pitch, and with Pascal Gross, it's a matter of put him anywhere you can, and he does a job at right back. We've seen disaster classes from him at right back before, but we've also seen master classes at right back before. And he's such an intelligent player. He was all over the pitch. It was the right choice from De Zerbi, but at the time, I was thinking maybe we should have a Veltman in there just to shore up that back line. But he's gone on to do extremely well there, and De Zerbi clearly knows what he's doing, and long may that continue.
Yeah, definitely. Aaron, would you call it a tactical masterclass from De Zerbi yesterday?
Yeah, I think so. I'm not sure if the reason why Gross played at right back is because Veltman or Lamptey had a knock. I'm not sure, but it worked. It worked, and I think we've said it numerous times beforehand. The Potter tactical masterclass, and I think on Instagram, I'm pretty sure I put one of the stories ready for De Zerbi masterclass, and so it would seem it happened.
It really did happen. But before it happened, Chloe, I know you were at the game yesterday. I don't know if you saw this, if you were in your seat at the time, but it was a really nice touch from the club to, welcome back Alexis McAllister for his first home game since returning to the club. He came out wearing his medal, and they had the World Cup on the plinth there. What was the buzz around the ground like when Alexis came out?
Yeah, it's just a shame he doesn't seem to have a song that everyone knows. I was thinking that because there was a huge buzz, everyone was singing Albion and that. But it would have been nice if we actually had a song for him to sing. And I have heard songs for him, but neither of them seem to really be catching on, at home at least. So, But yeah, it was really good to see him with this medal. So proud to have a World Cup winner in our squad. Like, it is just so unbelievable. I'm so proud of them, and proud of all our players that went to the World Cup, to be honest. Caicedo, Estupiñán, Sarmiento, Lamptey, Matoma, they all did well, you know. So I'm proud of all of them.
They really did. I mean, Chloe, if you don't mind, I mean, what have you made of the whole Trossard situation? Obviously, we've had our say on a bit, but what have you made of Trossard? Obviously, coming back from the World Cup himself, doesn't seem to have taken a leaf out of the books of like Purvis, Caicedo, Sarmiento, Lamptey, Mitoma, and Sanchez, who perhaps didn't do as well as they wanted to at the World Cup, but have still, cracked on. What have you made of Trossard's recent exploits, shall we say?
How to put this? I'm not overly happy with him from what I've heard. I think his agent seems to be a bit of a troublemaker, shall we say. He's a good player on his day, but he does burn hot and cold, and I just don't know. If his head's not here, then we'll have to sell him, and I don't know who would want him. That's the only thing. I can't see him going to any club that's a top 6 club and starting, because he says he wants to start. And yeah, so it just doesn't really make sense to me. Just get your head down and keep playing well, and maybe someone will come in for you. But all this fuss just stinks to me.
Thank you for that, Chloe. Thank you for your insight there. I mean, we talk really briefly about Trossard. I mean, Dan, the way we've been playing recently, Trossard doesn't get into our starting 11 at the moment. And yesterday was a case, if ever there needed to be one, was we don't really need you as much as you think perhaps we do.
No. I was sort of thinking to myself when I was looking at the bench, I was like, is our bench sort of like a place for him just to sort of, in case there's an injury or something? Even I thought maybe the place to the bench, but if he wants to start, we can't just sit him on the bench, because if his poor attitude is this how it is now, basically he was getting himself in the team, and obviously then for a few games he doesn't get into it, and then he packs his stuff up and goes off and sulks. It's quite hard to have a player like that. It's as Chloe said, I can't see where he would go, especially in this country. Maybe a couple of teams, maybe they can use him as a wing back, but that's about it. I can't think anywhere else that he could go. Maybe abroad somewhere else. Obviously, his choice probably abroad would be a lot more open than here, but it's all up to him, But it would be nice for him to stay, but I think after all that stuff come out, I know De Zerbi wants him to stay as well. I think he said in his post match. I think after that, I wouldn't have him here. I wouldn't have him.
Yeah, thank you for raising that, Dan, because De Zerbi, kudos to him, because in his post-match interviews, he was very much kind of like the door is open. But if you would like to hear more in-depth discussion about the Trossard, you can catch the video that we did on, what was it, Friday evening, which is on our YouTube, which was a live stream we did. So if you want to know more about our thoughts in regards to Trossard, check that out, because we've got a lot to talk about this Liverpool game. Now, you'd be forgiven for thinking that, the way the pundits have sort of framed this is, as ever, Liverpool was shocking, and they were shocking. Let's put it out there. But Brighton was scintillating. Before we get into the real depth of it, I'm going to read out some stats if I can, because I love a good stat. So the overall possession stats: 62% Brighton, 38% Liverpool. Goal attempts: 16 to Brighton, 6 to Liverpool. 9 on target, 2 for Liverpool. 3 apiece for shots off target. We had more corner kicks. We had more throw-ins. They made more saves. So if you look at the stats, it really demonstrates how sensational we were. And Joe, we got off to an absolutely flying start. How good was it to be in that stadium and see Brighton from the off go on the front foot?
Yeah, well, I spoke to a Liverpool podcast, LFC Day Trippers. Shout out to them for having me on Friday night. And I was saying to them that the game is won and lost in midfield, because they were telling me how rubbish their midfield is at the moment, and we know just what quality we have in midfield, and that was clear to see right from the start. We were breaking them down with ease, just cutting through them like a hot knife through butter, and it was just wonderful to watch. And I didn't really have any anxiety about the game from the moment we kicked off, to be honest, and that was a really weird feeling, because I sort of had to remind myself a few times that Brighton were playing Liverpool, and they honestly, first half, and obviously we went on to capitalise on it second half, which we'll talk about, but they looked awful, like completely gone. They're probably one of the worst teams I've seen at the Amex in the Premier League era since we've been promoted. They were that bad. And we'll talk about how good we were because we made them look that bad. All these pundits giving it the old, oh yeah, Liverpool were bad. What I hate about the pundits at the moment is Brighton were good, but I hate that. To give us our credit and then analyze Liverpool in a different segment, because you have to see what De Zerbi's doing with these players. And it was clear to see from a fan's point of view. So why are these experts not picking up on it? It baffles me, Tom.
Yeah, I think that's why, I read out those stats, because it is quite frustrating when you turn on to Match of the Day or TalkSport or whatever, and all you hear is, oh, Jurgen Klopp this and Liverpool that, and you don't actually hear Roberto De Zerbi is doing a sensational job here at Brighton. It would have been very easy for Brighton players to sort of have that, I don't know, like that sort of fallout from Potter leaving and kind of like just not perform. But if anything, they've been, as we've said before, they've just gone to another level. And it was excellent. And I think that caught Liverpool off guard a little bit. One battle that was really intriguing, Aaron, was Mitoma versus Trent Alexander-Arnold. Now, you said before about Trent is obviously very questionable defensively. And there were many times throughout the game where Mitoma and Purvis really utilised that space down the left or our left, should I say. And it seemed in the first half that was a really good route to go down. What did you make of the Mitoma-Trent battle?
There wasn't really much of a battle, to be honest. It generally wasn't. I've said this time and time again. Trent is defensively inept. I said it in the group chat. He is what United think Wan-Bissaka should be, and Wan-Bissaka is what Liverpool fans think Trent should be. Better defensively, crap going forward, Wan-Bissaka. Vice versa for Trent. Mitoma made him look like a bang average Premier League player. But then again, to be fair, that's what he is. And it was shown that. Because I'm not being funny. A guy's been in the Premier League, season? He's just torn apart, allegedly, the best ever right back that's ever graced the turf of English football. He's not. He's far from it. But Mitoma and Purvis made him look that bad. And credit to him. And I think that was always the route to go down. Always attack. Every Premier League club knows that's where to attack now. Is Liverpool's right-hand side. It's not rocket science, and they just can't seem to do anything about it because Trent is just that tactically inept. Yes, we absolutely destroyed him, and it was great to see. And Liverpool fans even called it before the game. Midfield is where it will be lost, and if Trent doesn't defend well, then it's game over, and there it is. It was proven that at Anfield as well. Mitoma had him on toast then, and that was his first real glimpse in the Brighton shirt. And he's just. Mitoma is getting better and better every time you see him, and which is kind of scary because the fact he's 25, so he's not young in terms of wonder kid, but he seems to come out of nowhere and he's just blown the Premier League apart, and it's something that we've been missing for a long time.
It's also worth pointing out, Tom, just before you continue on that, that they were actually having to double up on Mitoma. I noticed Henderson alongside Trent for a lot of it, which is great to see how much of a threat Mitoma is to these massive teams. That was in quotation marks for the audio listeners.
But even when they were doubling up, he still didn't stop him. That was the thing. It's just baffling, generally baffling. And also, I'd like to point out he's better than Wilfred Zaha.
Thank you, Aaron. Yeah, I mean, to be fair to Trent, he did do one defensively good thing in that game, and that was in the first half. March had a shot, and
The
Trent
shot was
cleared
going
it.
wide, Tom.
Do you reckon? Because
It
from
was
the angle
going.
I
It was
saw,
going
looked like
wide.
it might creep in if off
It was.
the post, admittedly.
It probably would have gone in off of him. He was honest launched himself in front of the shot, which was going wide. He shouldn't have been in that position in the first place. Any good right back, you turn your face in with the goal, not away from the. Yeah, ridiculous.
Well, either way, that happened, and from the resulting corner, McAllister had a header that was straight at Alisson. So no sort of like real goal threat there, apart from just a few stats in our favour. But Chloe, we were playing some really nice football, some lovely one-touch passing from the Albion. As I've already alluded to in the sort of the introduction, there, I think it was perhaps one of the best footballing performances that I've seen Brighton play. Have you ever seen Brighton play as well as they did yesterday?
I'm gonna go with no. We were brilliant, just all round 10 out of 10 performances, to be honest. The passing was sensational. I was a little bit worried, sort of when it was 0-0 that we just weren't going to score, but March's goals were just incredible. Welbeck's little flick for his goal was world class. I'm going to say it. And it's just great to see, to be honest. It just all seems to be clicking. And we have De Zerbi to thank for that, I think.
Yeah, 100% arguments here. I think De Zerbi has really got us cooking, and we'll go through some of the goal stats, the manipulated goal stats. We'll go through those a bit later on. Aaron, I wanted to come to you as our resident goalkeeping expert, because I thought it was some fantastic quick thinking from Sanchez. And you know what I'm going to talk about? When we were caught out on the break, but Sanchez comes out to the brink of his area. He denies Gakpo using his hands and then releases it literally as he touches the line. I mean, those reflexes were excellent, because at first I was like, has he handled it outside the box? But on the replay, you literally see him touch the line and he lets go. And that is just, for me, that was excellent goalkeeping.
It's just smart goalkeeping. It's simple but very effective. Just knowing your surroundings. That's literally what it is. It's not anyone can do it. Any goalkeeper can do that. But it's just the anticipation and just knowing your surroundings. That's all it was to that. And that is bread and butter for goalkeepers, really, if I'm honest.
Fair enough, Aaron. Thank you for that. There's another contribution I just wanted to talk about, Dan, really quickly. It all came from Mitoma firing wide after an absolutely sensational through ball from Levi Colwill. And I just thought, for me, that was one of the highlights of his game yesterday. I thought Colwill had a fantastic game. What did you make of his contribution yesterday?
Honestly, I think we hopefully can keep him, because he looks very, very good. But obviously, he's going to look good. Chelsea want to keep him. But I think it's probably one of his best performances I think I've probably seen myself. He basically defensively was great. And I said in the group chat, like every time he had the ball, because obviously this new thing that De Zerbi has brought in was obviously where they invite the press. He was standing on the ball and waiting for people to press, and literally they were standing still. And I was just like, why are they not pressing us? And literally when they go back to the goalkeeper, and literally they were like, they actually stood still. And I was like, you want to press your goalkeeper? And obviously then they're freely just passing it. And I was like, I don't know if that was a tactic that they basically went, don't invite the press, let them pass it around, was their idea. It didn't work, but yeah, but Levi very good. Hope we can keep him.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. I would really like to see Brighton try and bring him in on a permanent deal. And just really quickly, Dan, I agree with you, because Liverpool just weren't pressing, and I almost wondered if that was a Klopp tactic. It almost as well, you want us to press you, so we're just not going to. But then because Liverpool was so poor out of possession anyway, and poor in it, it almost didn't matter at all. The first half did end goalless, but there was just one last thing I want to talk about, which had my heart in my mouth a little bit, and that was when Jordan Henderson clattered into the back of Moises Caicedo, and it did look for a moment like he could be coming off injured, maybe a dislocated shoulder or something, but thankfully he could continue. But Joe, what did you how did you feel when Caicedo was down?
It was a worrying moment. It always is when you see a player go down and they're visibly in pain. You see it a lot where players sort of roll around and chuck their arms up in the air or flick their legs around like children. But he looked genuinely in pain, and I was half thinking, well, if he's injured, no one's going to buy him. But then I was also thinking, actually, he's so instrumental to our team. We cannot have this guy injured. And thankfully that he seems to be made of really tough stuff. And after a few minutes with the physios, he was waved back onto the pitch. And that was probably one of the most inviting things I've seen, to see him walk back onto that pitch and get straight back into the game. Really, he didn't look overly phased, and that's credit to the physios for sorting him out.
Yeah, that was the only worry I had. I was like, oh God, is he going to be fit to continue? Because we saw against Arsenal what a big part of the team he is. And I was very concerned at one point, thinking, oh God, there he goes. He's going to be out for a while. But thankfully, he was fit enough to continue. And the half ended goalless. There were no changes at the break. All that was missing from our performance in that first half was a goal. We had opportunities, but unfortunately we couldn't capitalize on them. However, it didn't take us very long to find the back of the net as we entered into the second half, where Solly got his third goal in 5 games. And it all comes from a poor pass from Joel Matip, who was being pressed by Ferguson. And we'll talk about Ferguson a bit later, because I thought, again, he had a quiet but a very good game. He was being pressed by Ferguson. McAllister nips in, wins the ball. He gives it to Matoma, who then sets up Sonny March for a tap in from close range. Chloe, what did you make of that goal? As you've already alluded to, some fantastic goals today, but that first one for Solly to score, what a way to start that second half.
Yeah, it was a good bit of team play, that, and then an excellent finish from March. You know, the fact that he's scoring is just so good, because that was always missing from his game. I don't think he was getting enough goals and assists, and honestly, I was starting to doubt him a bit. It's fine when he's playing at left wing back and he's not getting goals, but if he's going to be an attacking player, really he does need to be contributing. But it seems like De Zerbi's got him scoring, which is just sensational. And yeah, I would just like to say I'm a bit disappointed that we never got to see Mope under De Zerbi, because I do think he would have got him scoring as well. But yeah.
I think you're probably right. I think if there was ever a coach that was going to perhaps bring out that side of Mope, I think it would have been Roberto De Zerbi. What a real shame that we never got to see that happen. But Dan, it didn't take long for Solly to get on the score sheet again with what was an absolute peach of a goal. This time Ferguson gets the assist. It's an excellent through ball. March runs on into space. He said himself after the game it was a heavy touch, but what a way to score with a lovely shot. Go straight past Alisson, and what a goal! What a goal for his 4th goal in 5 games. What did you make of that second goal, Dan?
Amazing, top class. You know, I've been obviously me and Joe both have been saying Solly is going to improve this season so much, and we're happy. I'm sure both of us are very happy that he is. They showed a stat on Match of the Day about his goal contributions and goal and assists, and literally last year he had 0 goals with 2 assists, and then this year he's got 4 goals with 4 assists. It's showing how a different manager who is putting his arm around him, loves him, literally wants him to do well, thinks so highly of him, to literally then now doing very well. It's just showing that literally that's what was always missing. I think obviously De Zerbi came in and literally pinpointed him to start off with and said, this guy is a good player. And literally now we're seeing that on the pitch, and now we're all believing that he is a good player, which I'm glad really, because we've all seen it. There's always been flashes of how he was good. We've always seen it. And obviously, I think this is the best thing that for Solly March's career for us is probably literally Potter leaving with De Zerbi coming in, for somebody who actually believes in him and giving him just an arm round and saying, "Look, you are a good player. Just do what you need to do." And the change of formation as well, because now he's a winger, not a left wing back. Has just changed him completely as well. I'm so glad for him. It's obviously, he's probably been down in the dumps a lot of the times last season and start of this season probably as well. And now that he's got the confidence to do that again, having a brace against Liverpool, it's going to do him a world of good and hopefully kick on from that.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you mentioned there, Dan, about when De Zerbi joined the Albion, about him highlighting Solly March as a really key player. And I think it was then the post-match comments from De Zerbi yesterday. He said that March plays every game like a Champions League final. And March's comment said he loves playing under De Zerbi, Joe. He says that he's instilled a confidence in him. And March has always been a confidence player, but it's how fantastic is it to see March brimming with confidence. I mean, there's that photo yesterday that was taken after the second goal with March standing in front of the North Stand on the advertising hoarding. And it's just sensational. It's pics that go hard.
Yeah, it's magical stuff to see the local lad that scored the goal to seal our promotion to the Premier League as well. People have very short memories and seem to forget that he was instrumental in that season. He was instrumental before that when we were having our poor form under Hoopier and then into Houghton. He was important, and he's been an important player for so long. And I'm so very glad that he's getting his rewards now and playing at the highest level. As Dan said, scoring a brace against Liverpool, that is no mean feat, whether they're on form or off form. So it's props to Solly for carrying on and for believing in himself always. And what I loved as well after the game, De Zerbi was asked about Solly March, and as soon as the name Solly March was mentioned, the high-rise smile on De Zerbi's face. So I bring the Trossard situation into this. Whatever Trossard's management are saying about De Zerbi, of him humiliating and being not very nice to Trossard, I really fail to believe that, because every single other player absolutely adores him. So yeah, that's my take on that.
Yeah, and it was fantastic as well. I think it was the Twitter, Brighton and Hove Albion Twitter as well. They posted a video of Solly going into the changing rooms after the game. And they're all singing Solly March, and there Roberto De Zerbi at the very front leading that chant. So it's clear that Roberto De Zerbi rates Solly March very, very highly, and he's got March firing on all cylinders, which is.
I reckon, Tom, he must have heard your comment. I think, what was it, a few months ago, where you said Solly March is going to be better than Trossard or something along those lines. He must have watched us and said, "Oh yeah, I'll take Solly ahead of Trossard."
What can I say? I know ball. A man that was instrumental in both of Solly's goals there, Aaron, was Evan Ferguson. Really fantastic pressing for the first, a lovely through ball for the second, and some brilliant centre forward play where he backs into the Liverpool man. Ball comes into his feet and he sets up Lallana, who unfortunately scuffs his shot. Evan didn't score yesterday, but he did get an assist. What did you make of the young man's performance? Because Evan Ferguson, who's 18 years of age, he's kind of burst onto the scene and he's playing fantastically at the moment.
I think as an overall performance, that's probably his best performance out of the three. As a general striker, his build-up play or assist in the build-up play was fantastic. It helps us massively that, like Dan alluded to earlier, that if Colwell sits on the ball, waits for the press, couple of passes, long ball, and Ferguson's there to hold it up. And it's exactly what we've been missing. It's 100% the right thing to do to start Ferguson instead of Welbeck, and it should be for the foreseeable, in my personal opinion. The way he brings players into play, I think, has been so promising. It's the best way of putting it. It's just promising. And I'm not going to build him up too much. I feel like we may have done that with another certain Irishman, and he spent 90% of his time down in Shush getting on it. So hopefully Evan doesn't end up like that. But the future's bright for him. The future is whatever he wants it to be at the moment. It depends how much he wants to work for it. That's where the difference, I think, will be made. I think De Zerbi will make him into an absolute world beater if he carries on in this vein of form and in this attitude, we've got a real player on our hands.
Yep, he's going to be a special player one day. I've got a feeling, and I think if there's a coach you want to turn a forward into a goal machine, at the moment it's Roberto De Zerbi. We, after the going up 2-0, we did make some changes to shore up the defence a little bit because it was inevitable that Liverpool would eventually, I suppose, turn up. They did get in a bit more into the game at 2-0 down. There was some good pressure. Elliott had a shot that he should have done better with. It skewed wide, and Sanchez had to spread himself on the goal line to deny Gakpo, which was an important save. I mean, Chloe, what was the feeling in the stands? Was there ever an anxiety about Liverpool getting back into the game at all, or was it fairly comfortable?
I do think it was pretty comfortable because we just looked so good. I was personally a bit worried because I just always am. But in terms of the stands, yeah, I think everyone was just having fun, really. It didn't feel like they were going to really come back, to be honest. Even if they got a goal back, we might have ended up getting a third. Well, we did end up getting a third, but you know what I mean. And it was just so positive, the atmosphere, and we were just brilliant. I said to my mum at one point, we're just brilliant. We look so good on the ball, and that was before we even scored the third. So yeah, I wasn't ever overly worried.
Good. I'm glad to hear that, that was the impression from the stands. I mean, watching on the screen I always find is very different from sitting in the stands when you're surrounded by Brighton supporters. I mean, I must say, Dan, one of the things that really came across yesterday was the Brighton fans were loud. You really got that impression. I've said it before. I think Brighton fans at home, especially, have been very reactionary, and I don't necessarily mean that in a bad way. But I suppose my point is that if you give them something to cheer and sing about, they will cheer and sing. And it's something that lacked under Graham Potter a little bit with the sideways football at times. But the atmosphere yesterday seemed electric. What was it like when the Albion were 2-0 up and were passing through Liverpool for fun?
It was great. It was one of probably. It's nice to see that the atmosphere sort of can go back up again, because I think a lot of times, as you say, under Graham Potter, you get allowed one day, and then the next game you get sort of a quieter one. Whereas obviously we weren't, because I think when they've got the frustration starting to come up a bit more about not scoring, obviously you would feel it in the stands. People just getting frustrated about. The performances were there. We always say the performance was there. It's just some people like to see goals, and if you're not getting goals, they don't want to cheer about anything. It does not matter about if you can play well, whatever. But the whole idea of the game is to score goals, and obviously we weren't doing that enough, really, for people to sort of cheer and do chants. And I say one thing as well. It was great to see that chant come back. That we're effing brilliant. That was the highlight of the whole game.
It's good when you win 3-0 against Liverpool, and the highlight of the game was the chant that was epitomised by under the Gus Poyet era, the last season at the Withdean. I mean, what a chant that was. But no, you're right. There have been times where things like that, they just get the crowd bouncing. There are certain chants that will always be sort of just one that gets the Amex bouncing. My favourite in our promotion season was always, we're on our way. I mean, just getting that around the Amex was always just insane. And to hear that, remake an appearance was just sensational. Now, I didn't mean to gloss over this, Aaron. I'm going to come to you again as our resident goalkeeper expert, but it was a big stop from Sanchez to deny Gakpo. I don't know if there was like a deflection off of Colwill and then the ball fell to him, but Sanchez spreads himself really well. And it's a really important save, especially when you're 2-0 up. I mean, we've said it before, 2-0, it's a dangerous scoreline. And all it takes is Liverpool to get one, and suddenly the momentum can shift. So a big stop from Sanchez, I feel.
Yeah, no, massive stop. And that just proves how good a goalkeeper he can be. He hasn't had much to do, but when he needs to do something, he's there. And that's the thing, is to be a world-class goalkeeper, you need to have that mentality. And yeah, he's had a bit of a iffy 2 months or so, 3 months or so, but he's there when we need him the most. And I mean, like you said, goals change games. It doesn't matter when they score, goals change games. If that goes in, it could be a different game. We may not have got the third. We may have been a bit more reserved, and Liverpool were just could have gone completely gun ho. But other than that, he didn't really have much to do. Really had that one shot maybe in the first half where, admittedly, I thought it was a penalty on Salah at first, where he made the save, came out, and it looked like he took Salah out, but he's clearly won the ball. Otherwise, it would have got checked. But other than that, I can't remember him really doing a great deal. And was that anybody else? I don't think he'd done much other really.
No, I think apart from
which sums up just how good we were defensively, may I add.
Yeah, it was a fantastic performance defensively. I mean, across that back line, I mean, Gross at right back, Dunk, Colwill, and Estupinian, who I thought had his best game for us. I thought he was sensational yesterday, Purvis. Absolutely fantastic. We were just a rock at the back, and I think apart from the Sanchez coming out to claim and then letting the ball go in the first half, the tap away from Salah, and then the save where he spreads himself on the line. It's the only 3 times I can remember Sanchez really having anything to do. But as you say, Aaron, to stay switched on, to have that concentration, even though you're not being called upon, I think is part of a goalkeeper's game that is perhaps overlooked at times. Because to keep that mental focus, it must be quite draining, especially if you've not got much to do. But thankfully they didn't score, but we did. We scored again. And what a goal, Joe. Was it Welbeck or was it Gascoigne? Sensational. Quick throw taken. March flicks it on. Welbeck takes a touch. He knocks it over Joe Gomez and he volleys it home. What a peach of a goal, Joe.
Yeah, it all happened so fast as well. Like we had a throw on the near side to where I'm sat, and at first Solly was stood. Obviously, you can't be offside from a throw on, but Solly was stood in the offside position.
Oh, it doesn't matter anymore, Joe. The offside rule doesn't matter anymore.
Literally, would say it doesn't really matter anyway. You could be about fucking 10 meters offside and run alongside the ball. It doesn't really matter. As long as you don't touch it, it's fine.
Very true. But yeah, Solly gets the ball, and before I knew it, everyone was celebrating. And I didn't actually see the ball go in because before the Welbeck flick, everyone had stood up because we were in the box, and I was late in standing up, and then I was bundled. So yeah, looking at it back on the replay once it was back on the big screen, that's when I saw how much of a frigging good goal it was. And at that point, I just got like this weird shivers all over my body. Like, what is happening? 3-0 up against Liverpool, and Welbeck has just done that. Like, it's just incredible. And to have that confidence to flick that over. And also, it's worth pointing out that when Welbeck flicked that over his head, obviously he's always going to take the shot, but he's got 2 men over. He's got 2 men next to him that he can pass to. So where on earth were Liverpool? That is hilarious. But yeah, Welbeck, world class, as Chloe said earlier. And yeah, obviously Aaron said as well, you probably start Ferguson. I'm in the agreement that yes, you start Ferguson, but it's good to get Welbeck back on the pitch and back in the goals.
Yeah, Chloe, that could be my question to you. I mean, how good was it to see Danny back on the pitch after a period of absence and also back in the goals as well? Because, as you say, world-class finish from him. Absolutely sensational.
Yeah, I mean, has he scored at all yet this season other than yesterday?
One in the cup.
Well, yeah, it was so good to see him, well, not just score, but score such a great goal. And hopefully he can get a few more goals. I would agree that Ferguson should start over him, but there's no reason he can't come on and score as a sub, hopefully. But yeah, it's just great having that depth, really. We've got 2 really good strikers there in Welbeck and Ferguson, which is good to see, to be honest.
Strength in depth in the striking position. Who would have thought it? Dan, Chloe said we've got some fantastic strength in depth, so much so that we had to get Lallana and Gross on the same pitch. We had to put Gross at right back, which means Joel Veltman, who is one of the best, most consistent players in the squad, in my opinion, was on the bench. One thing I will say about Veltman, when Solly scored, Veltman his cheering, it was just lovely to see. You know, that team spirit was just fantastic. And I've got a lot of time for Joel Veltman, so that was lovely. He must be quite disappointed of not making the starting 11, but, you know, really great to see him celebrating with March. But Dan, my question to you, they were two very different goals, but which one do you think was better? Solly March's second goal or Welbeck's?
That's a question. That's hard. That's very hard. Because Solly can do that. You see that by Solly all the time. I've never seen that sort of goal from any striker, let alone Danny Welbeck. I probably would say maybe edge it to Danny's goal, because just to flick it over another defender, then just slot it in near post. It was amazing to see. It was amazing. Very, very, very good.
I think it would be fair to say in that game yesterday, we saw two goal of the season contenders. I think that's personally, I mean, as I say, they were very different goals, but they were two sensational goals. And we almost got a fourth. Sarmiento went from distance, almost caught Alisson out, but he parried away from a corner. But that would have been a fantastic goal to score. But in the end, the full-time whistle blew, and the Albion ran out 3-0 winners against Liverpool. Now, we've tweeted out and we've also put out on Instagram today about some of the big games that we've won in the past, several months. I mean, at the beginning of the season, we had Manchester United. The end of last season, we also beat Manchester United. Can't forget, of course, the drubbing of Chelsea earlier in this season, and then yesterday's complete annihilation. I'm going to use the word annihilation of Liverpool. And we've asked people to see which one was their favourite. So the Manchester United 4-0 win at the end of last season, the beating of Graham Potter's Chelsea a few months ago, and then yesterday's 3-0 victory against Liverpool. We've asked people to say which one was their favourite. Let us know in the comments if you haven't done so already. But I'm now going to come to the hosts and we're going to see which one they think was our best performance. Joe, come to you first. Which game out of those three do you think was the best?
You say best performance, as in team, or best time at a game?
Take it however you want.
I'm going to take it emotionally and say the Chelsea game, which I feel like will be a lot of people's choice. But you experienced every single emotion you could experience at a football game, at that game. There were boos, there were cheers, there was elation, there was anxiety when Chelsea got their goal back. Everything about that game was absolutely magical, and something that we've got at the end of this podcast, which we're going to edit in. So do stick around for the last 5 minutes of this podcast. Dogma Brighton have done a full audio recording from the stands at that game, and it's absolutely mesmerizing to hear. You feel the complete emotion. It takes you straight back to that game. And yeah, it's really great. And the link to the full 90 minutes thing will be in our description below as well. But that game for me, just for what it meant to us, we'd had so much stick from Chelsea fans about, they've taken the best things about our club, this, that, and the other. I was on 5 Live talking to a Chelsea fan, and she mentioned that it was just business. But we did the business on that day. So, yeah.
We certainly did. Aaron, which one was your favourite out of the three?
Three very, very different sort of games, really. But I would again go for Chelsea. I think Joe hit the nail on the head. Emotionally, I haven't felt anger like that in a football game for a while, even before getting into the game kicked off. The hostile atmosphere was just unreal. I've never experienced anything like it, and just the sheer emotions of the whole entire game was nuts. And I don't think we'll probably ever really sort of have anything similar. I wouldn't say for a long time. Even when we play that lot up the road, it's never that. It's bad, but I don't get that angry, that irate over it. And that was special. And to see them all come back and just absolutely crumble and still crumbling to this day it makes me happy. And I shouldn't take joy in seeing other people's sadness, but on this occasion, it's funny as fuck. So,
Aaron telling it how it is, as we've come to expect, and as we love from you, Aaron. Thank you very much. Chloe, which one out of those three would you say is your favourite game?
Yeah, definitely Chelsea. I do think yesterday was probably the best performance from Brighton that I've seen, but just in terms of the emotions, yeah, it was Chelsea. Just so angry at them for all they took from us, and then to just rub it in their faces and do the business on the pitch and seeing them crumble. Yeah, it's hilarious. I love it.
Yeah, it is. There's a certain amount of Schadenfreude that goes with at the moment with their poor run of form. Dan, finally to you as well, my friend. Same question: which of those three was your favourite?
As I say, very different games. I probably would have picked Chelsea if I went. I can't remember why I wasn't there. But as I say, everyone said about the atmosphere and all that. Obviously, it probably would have been one of the best. So mine's going to be different. So mine is United. Just purely because they had considered one of the best players in the world playing at the Amex. And he was stood there 4-0 down, laughing. Literally, it was just literally the best thing I'd say when they had the transfer saga with him as well. You just kept seeing it. I kept reminding me that going, he stood on our pitch just laughing at his team being demolished by, probably in his head, little old Brighton. So yeah, I have to be different. Because if I say I went to the game, I would have probably said that one. But yeah, United for me.
I wonder if Messi and McAllister have had a little giggle about that, by the way, on their international duty. That would have been quite a funny conversation to be a fly on the wall.
Well, Dan, as someone who hasn't been to any of those games due to proximity to Brighton, I think, as you say, that each of those games was special and fantastic in its own right. I think Chloe, you hit the nail on the head. Yesterday was probably the most complete performance. But if I try and remember how I felt in each game, I'm also going to go with the United game, because I remember at maybe, I think it was 2 or 3-0. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. And then when the fourth goal was in, I was like almost in tears, because I could not believe, like, however many years after the FA Cup final and all the replay and all that sort of jazz. And my dad was at the game and he was like, I'm almost, my dad said exactly the same thing. He just couldn't believe it, having to pinch himself. But if I remember back to how I felt then, I think that's probably got me the most sort of like high in terms of emotion. So I'm going to go with the Man United game as well. But if you wanted to see our reactions to that Manchester United game, you can find it in our videos, which will be somewhere there. Or if you are an audio listener, you can scroll on down. But let's get back to the game yesterday. 3 goals we scored at Anfield, 3 goals at the Amex. Not a bad stat, Joe, at all, is it?
Manipulated, Tom. Stop it.
Would you like me to manipulate the stats even further? Because I can tell you, in our last 10 games, we have scored 28 goals, and only one team has got a shutout against us. And of all the teams for it to get that shutout, it's Charlton. No disrespect to Charlton, of course not, because fair play to them. Because that's a stat they could probably be quite proud of, considering we are scoring for fun at the moment. But yeah, 28 goals in 10 games. Joe, it's not bad for a team that we've been told over the last however many years, we just need a striker.
Well, I'm just gutted that we won't be XG champs, Tom. That was the only trophy that I was hanging on to. No, it's wonderful. It's so good to see. And it's hilarious when you get these Potter out people saying that he laid the foundations. If you really believe that much, Chelsea fans, then maybe you should have a look at what's going on at your football club right now, even though you're pumping millions and millions and millions and millions of pounds into it. So But yeah, it's so good. De Zerbi has changed his team. Obviously, yes, Graham Potter did work with his team, but he wasn't getting the stat that matters, and that was goals. That obviously, yes, we scored 5 against Leicester. Yes, we scored 3 against West Ham. Yes, we scored 4 against United. But I believe that's credit to the players and just believing in themselves and carrying that on under De Zerbi has been absolutely wonderful. So you can try and say that stat is manipulated all you like, but the facts speak for themselves.
They certainly do. I mean, one stat that often gets thrown back at us when we say how many goals we've scored is the fact that we haven't really kept clean sheets. But Aaron, yesterday we did. We kept a first clean sheet in 8 Premier League games. I mean, how fantastic would it be for the back line to come away from that game knowing that they've had a shutout?
Yeah, clean sheets are just a massive bonus to. It's basically like scoring goals for the attackers. It means more to them than anything. And talking from experience, if we've won 5-6-1 when I'm playing, I'll be pissed off I conceded. I wouldn't care that we won. I'd be more annoyed that I've conceded. And then that's just the way I always have been, and it'd be no doubt even higher at the sort of bigger pressure at the highest level. And to keep clean sheets, it can win you games. You don't drop points. You don't lose if you don't concede. Simple. And it's our first clean sheet for a while. We should have had one against Everton. Without a shadow of a doubt.
And Southampton.
And Southampton. And it'll do them a world of good. And that's not just the centre halves, not just Sanchez, it's the whole team. It'll be the confidence will run through the whole entire squad from that.
Very good. Now, I appreciate, guys, that this might be quite a tricky one considering just how fantastic yesterday's performance was. But I'm going to push you now for the man of the match, or who you thought really stood out against a background of sensationalism. Just amazing performances. So, Chloe, I'm gonna come to you first, mate. Who was your player of the match, please?
I'm gonna go Solly March. He was just brilliant, and 2 goals and an assist. It's got to be him, really.
No arguments there. Dan, on to you, my friend. Who was your man of the match, please?
There's only one, isn't there? It's Solly March.
Joe, any theories?
Gully, Solly March, 100%. And as Aaron said in the group chat yesterday, I can't wait for another Team of the Week card in FIFA for our boy Solly. So yeah, Solly March, perfect performance. And as the thumbnail suggests, a Solly March masterclass sinks Liverpool.
Sensational. Aaron, any difference, or is it going to be Solly?
Different, actually. I'm going to Adam Lallana, and for the prime reason why is he was everywhere, but then also you never noticed he was everywhere. That's how good he was. He just floated around. He'd done the thing, just done everything right. It's probably the best performance I've seen Lallana for a long time. And yes, obviously March was fantastic. I'm not going to disagree with that. But I just felt like Lallana was like himself 6-7 years ago. That's what it looked like. It looked like a Champions League winning, Premier League winning centre midfielder. That's what it looked like yesterday. And granted, he was, I can't believe I'm saying this, he was only playing against Henderson, Fabinho and Thiago, but he made them look like League One players. And, they're well-established midfielders, but for me, Lallana was his best display in the Brighton shirt. But it probably went a little bit under the radar, I think. But that's what I think, anyway.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, Aaron, that's a fantastic shout. I think a lot of what Adam Lallana does is often overlooked. I think he's a fantastic leader on and off the pitch. And yesterday, I think his quality just was just that above. I mean, a midfield of Caicedo, Alexis McAllister, and Adam Lallana completely bossed the game. So no, I totally respect that, because yeah, I thought he had a fantastic game. And from my own point of view, I think everyone played very, very well. I think there were 9-10s out all over the pitch. But I suppose I'm going to have to give it to Solly, 2 goals and an assist. Defensively sound, attacking, always looking for space, always bringing people into the game. So, fantastic for Solly, who's been, the butt of a lot of jokes, the butt of a lot of sort of comments in regards to, whether he's good enough. I saw a tweet the other day, bearing in mind he's been scoring recently, a tweet the other day saying he's the most easily replaceable player. I don't know how you can come to that conclusion at this moment. I really don't.
Tom, can I ask you a question?
Push down.
Looking back at our video that we done on the worst Amex 11, you put a certain Pascal Gross in there at right back. Do you stand by that decision?
Well, I mean, I said it then in the video that I had forgotten about. I had blocked out some of the players we had during our Amex era. I'm gonna hold my hands up and say, Pascal continues to surprise me. He will literally play in any position you put him in. And that's almost why I'm very laid back about the potential of Trossard leaving, because I think, Pascal might not have the pace and the legs to bomb up and down the wing. But if you played him as an inside right or whatever you want to call it, I think he could do a job, and he would do a job. He's an incredibly intelligent footballer. And I have every faith that Roberto De Zerbi knows how to use him far better than I ever could. So at the time, I kind of, because it was under Potter and he was playing wing back and it was awful. But, he's a sensational player, as Pascal Gross. So, yeah, I kind of, I regret it a little bit. But anyway.
Full screen apology or no?
Stand by your decision. Stand by your decision, because I agree with you. I think under Potter, yes, 100%, because he's not a wing back. He is not a wing back. He's not a wing back. That's the issue there. Right back, under De Zerbi, he proved yesterday. Obviously, I'd rather have Veltman or Lamptey. Obviously, I'm not gonna lie, but for a third choice right back, hell, if he plays like that again, then by all means.
Yeah, I think so. So we're going to look ahead to Leicester, but just really briefly before, because I know we're closing in on the hour. I mean, feel free to chime in here, guys, and feel free to leave some comments below, listeners, and at us on Twitter or whatnot. But I genuinely think Brighton are playing the best football in the league right now. I'm incredibly biased, and I totally accept that. But when I look at what other teams are doing, Man City, I think Haaland was the wrong choice for them. I think their football has got completely changed since he's come into the team. United are sort of, but it hasn't been sensational. Arsenal, they're playing very well. But I watch Brighton and I'm expecting goals. I'm expecting excitement. And for me, again, incredibly biased. But for me, I think they're just playing some of the best football in the league, if not the best.
But for us to be even in that conversation is sensational in itself, Tom. So I think you're not completely wide of the mark saying that.
And I mean, I've got to say, massive kudos to likes of Newcastle and Brentford and Fulham, who are also doing fantastic jobs. They really are. But every time Brighton are taken to the pitch at the moment, I'm just so excited to see the game that's about to unfold. Aaron, want to say something?
So the thing I'm going to... When you say Haaland was a wrong choice of City, explain that.
So I believe...
Is this yesterday or is this in general?
In general.
So I'm hoping you mean... Oh, wow.
Okay. So I think Haaland is one of the best strikers in the world. Of that, there is no doubt. But I think City have changed their style to suit him. So instead of buying a player that suits them, they bought in a player and gone, well, we need to change the way we play to accommodate him. That's just what I think. I mean, don't get me wrong, City are still City and they still play fantastic football. But I don't think they are as good as they were last season when they didn't have Haaland. That's just my opinion.
The thing I would say, or to maybe even
Well, Aaron, my point was
uh,
are they winning the league? No.
for me to back that up, Tom,
won't.
I would say if Haaland is off it, which isn't very often, City haven't got much else in answer to that.
Yeah, but
Because
they play Gundogan as a false nine and still won
yeah,
the league.
because Haaland's their focal point, and if your focal point is off, like we know, then there's not much that you can do. Which we were crying out for a focal point, and Evan Ferguson gave us a focal point. And I'm not comparing Ferguson to Haaland. In fact, I went on a Liverpool podcast the other day, and they were talking about Evan Ferguson, and they also spoke about Haaland, and they said all he is a goal machine. All he does is score goals. He doesn't do anything else. He's not a footballer. He's a goal machine. And I claimed that Evan Ferguson has more to his game than Haaland does. In terms of a footballer.
What is
Before we give
in
Aaron an
terms of
aneurysm,
a footballer.
before we give Aaron an aneurysm, we are not Manchester City obsessed, so we're going to move away from this topic, and we might discuss it off air. But let us know.
We are Evan Ferguson obsessed.
We are Evan Ferguson obsessed. Let's look ahead then to our next game against Leicester. Leicester are bang out of form and are dropping like a stone under Brendan Rodgers. So the script should, of course, go Leicester run away with this because we've been following Brighton for long enough to know that that's how we do. We play well against the, and I'm very sorry if anyone's from Leicester and they're listening, the top six, the big teams, the teams at the top of the table, we always perform well against those teams and we tend to struggle against the teams towards the bottom of the table. Joe, Leicester are not doing very well at the moment, but do you think it would be, and I regret to use the word as easy as it looks on paper?
Nowhere near. They've just lost I don't know, they call it a derby. They've lost a rivalry just this weekend with Nottingham Forest. They're going to be wanting a reaction. They're at home. I don't know what their fans are feeling at the moment, whether their fans are going to get on their back the moment they make a mistake. That could be quite hard for them to play through. Or will their fans back them to the hilt and push them to get a win against a team that are doing unbelievably well in the league? There's a big motivation for Leicester to go out and perform against the Brighton side that have just beaten Liverpool 3-0. So no, it's not going to be easy. And I don't think this sounds mental again, because this is Leicester. They won the league. They've won trophies in the last sort of 4 to 5 years. We can't underestimate them. We can't, and we have to go and play our game. De Zerbi has said in the week, this is our way. We only play our way, and if we do that, we come away as winners, because Leicester, they're easy. It's easy to rock Leicester, and I think if we go 1-0 up, I think that'll be the game won, and we'll win it comfortably. I think the first goal is really important.
Yeah, goals change games, as the old adage goes. Now, I'm just conscious of time. So I'd like to come to each of you now in turn and just get your score predictions for Leicester. I do think it is a winnable game. Our away form is fantastic. It's better than our home form, arguably. There's definitely goals to be had here. So I'm going to come to you first, Aaron, as Joe has just done some speaking words. Score prediction against Leicester, please.
3-1 Brighton.
Very good. Thank you very much. Chloe, what do you think the score will be against Leicester, please?
My heart says 6-0, but I'm going to go 3-0.
Ooh, wow, that was 6-0. Yeah, I think I'll take that. Dan, where do you stand on the score against Leicester, please?
Chloe predicting a close game there. I think as they have Jamie Vardy, he loves scoring against us. I don't know if he's fit or whatever, but I'd say 3-1 to Brighton, obviously.
And finally, Joe, do you think Albion will continue their fine form in front of goal?
Just before I say that, there's some really awful shit news that has just come out Enock Mwepu has been rushed to hospital after collapsing again. So I first of all want to say we wish Enock Mwepu all the best and hope he has a really quick recovery and nothing's too bad. These are the reports that are on Twitter, but all of our prayers at Albion Obsessed go to him. So fingers crossed he's okay. In terms of scoreline for next week, which seems irrelevant me talking about this now because of that really sad news, I think Brighton win 2-0. But as I say, we wish Mwepu all the best. But I'm sorry to bring you that sad news, guys.
No, thank you for letting us know, Joe. Of course, we wish Enock a speedy recovery, and our thoughts and prayers are with him and his family and friends at this time. I feel like that is the right place to end the episode. Keep your eyes peeled on social media, guys, and let's hope that Enock makes a speedy recovery. Wherever you may be, whenever you may be, stay safe, and we'll speak to you next time. Take care.